Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Wi-Fi is Out with your two hosts, Aros.
And double D a T.
So today we have a topic that I've been excited for years now, and it is Baldur's Gate 3 and its official full release, not only on computer, PC, but also on a PlayStation, which happened in early September. So I've been playing it for about a month and a half now, since full release. Pretty much every single day, and I've gone from having 100 hours in early access up to almost 500 hours in the game now, because it has that much content. So it was designed by Larian Studios, in support of Wizards of the Coast, I believe, who have all their Magic the Gathering, D&D, all that stuff, right? Pretty sure.
Wait, what?
It was essentially made from the 5th edition D&D rules. They were given permission to make Baldur's Gate 3, which is the next game after Baldur's Gate 2, and I think it's separated by a couple hundred years or so, in turn of events.
Oh, unfortunately, I don't know that about D&D. I know more about the fake worlds that people make.
Yeah, versus an actual lore specific. But I will say it is an amazing game. It has a variety, to kind of introduce the game. It is essentially it's playing D&D. To sum it up, it is playing D&D. You create your character, you choose your class, you choose your race, you choose your background, you go into the game, you do the story, you get the teammates, you get the money, you spend the money on items to make your character stronger, to kill stronger people, to get more money, to beat the big bad guy. What I did not expect was the big bad guy was actually an insanely good fight, because I've beaten the game twice now. I've done the game on a good playthrough, a heroic playthrough, and I've done the game on an evil playthrough. Both were absolutely fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, so the good playthrough, I chose to essentially play it as good as I could. It was more like a neutral, lawful playthrough where I still followed the rules and stuff, and I tried to save as many people as I could. But there were a lot of options where I didn't need to kill people, but I chose to because it was just more convenient to get through portions of the story.
Oh, see, my first, which by the way, I haven't played the game yet, so I'm gonna kind of restrict him on his answers a little bit.
Yeah, just he doesn't want spoilers too much. There will be some spoilers for you guys, but I'll try to limit it right now. It
would be mostly
probably bosses endgame.
Endgame.
Super big story points.
You have two choices at the end game. You got to make one or the other type of thing. I would probably just be doing an evil playthrough from the beginning. If I could screw somebody over, I'm probably going to do that. In both ways.
God. So I'm going to start with some basic stuff to kind of go over to give you everyone who may not know about the game or may not be sure if they want to get the game. So you essentially, when you load up into the character customization screen, you can choose to create a fully custom character, or you can choose to play as one of the 6 origin characters, which...
Boring.
Yeah. Or you can play as the Dark Urge, which I'll get into a lot of in-depth for Double T for that, because that'll be the character I'm pretty sure he's going to want to play. Essentially, the 6 origin characters... Oh, sorry, you have a question?
I was thinking I was going to become a tiefling bard, or what is it? Thief?
Rogue?
Rogue, there we go.
I will say, I like Rogue, but after my playthrough of hundreds of hours of playthrough, Rogue is definitely a multi-class option, and I don't like going full Rogue, but that's just me. Other people might. But you can multi-class. So I played the game, I've played as every single class at this point. I've multi-classed as multiple, every combination that I can think of, I've at least tried it out. Whether I've played it for a continuous amount of time or not varies.
Well, don't you want to say a single class because their level 20 powers are OP in the games?
No, actually, I would say no. So right now the max level for the game is 12, and specifically,
so that doesn't even matter.
Yeah. So specifically, the reason that 12 is the max level, they've kind of given us their answer, is because after most one shots for D&D tend to run up to level 12 because after your character passes level 12 in a specific like one class, you tend to get really overpowered. And the way that you would design a story for characters around those levels, especially going up to 20, where essentially you're on the power level of a god and you're supposed to be fighting a god, they would have to completely redo the entire storyline. The end boss is extremely powerful, and you should at least be minimum level 12. But if you were to be level 20, you would one-shot it like it was nothing, and it would make the experience so unenjoyable.
Okay.
But multi-classing adds some spice to it, because a lot of the classes, when you get to level 12, for like example, Cleric, when you get to level 12, you get the ability Divine Intervention, where one time you can reach out to your deity and get something overpowered. They have a few different options, but you can get like a legendary weapon. You can do an insane amount of damage to enemies nearby you one time, but you get to use it once and then it's done for your playthrough. Like, that's your level 12 thing. But if you decide to, instead of being a level 12 cleric, spec into a separate class like Thief, for example, you can spec 3 levels into Thief, and you can choose the it's not assassin, it's not rogue, but like there's an option for a specific subclass of Thief where you get an extra bonus action. So every turn you have 1 action and 2 bonus actions, which is really, really good because there's a lot of stuff you can do as bonus actions like heal, dash, jump, that if you can only do it once per turn, it kind of like limits where you can go on the field.
Wow, the famous tap dancer class.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. You're so right. You're so right. But then you also have the class, like if you spec, I believe it's 3 levels into fighter, you can get action surge. So once per short rest, so in just a fight, you can start the first turn of the fight with 2.
Wait, you can sleep during fights?
After fights, like in between. So if you have a fight, then you can sleep, then you can have another fight. But you can essentially have once per short rest, you can have an extra whole action that you can just choose to take whenever you want. Which is pretty nice, because once you reach level 5, a lot of melee classes tend to get like an extra attack. So every time you have an action that you attack with, you'll get a second attack as well. So if you get 2 actions, that's 4 attacks, which is, it adds up a lot. So there's like multi-classing into certain classes benefits you a lot if you plan.
So what race and class should I go then? Maybe base it off of your favorites.
So my favorite so far, every time I've played, I really love the Dragonborn, because I love the draconic ancestry, where you get a breath weapon, so you can be a fire dragon, an ice dragon, a lightning dragon.
Oh, you just convinced me. Lightning.
Yeah. So you literally breathe lightning, and then once you reach a certain level, you get like resistance to lightning damage, which is kind of nice. And then I've tried playing every class, and I've fallen for my main character into 2 classes that I prefer the most. Ranger, because Rangers, especially if you choose a half-elf like I do when I do Ranger, so I'll do half-elf Ranger, I'll do Dragonborn Sorcerer. The reason I'll do half-elf Ranger is because half-elves as a Ranger have a insane chance to hit, as well as getting dark vision, so you can see in the dark and be able to hit more accurately in places like the Underdark. So it's just, you have a lot of accuracy to hit, so you rarely miss, which means you're clipping enemies from super far away, really, really fast, super awesome. As well as you like get a pet, and just having a pet is fantastic. But then I'll play Dragonborn Sorcerer, specifically because you can go the Draconic Ancestry version, so you're a double Dragonborn, essentially. You have your Dragonborn, which I'll usually choose like resistance to ice.
Skyrim's in this game?
Gosh. Technically, yeah. Technically, the way you could play Skyrim, like you could, in a sense, play Baldur's Gate 3. So, theoretically, you could become a Dragonborn with shouts.
Cool. So, my character is now Dovahkiin the Dragonborn, which has lightning breath. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on. Convince me on the class now.
So now, if you choose Dragonborn Draconic Ancestry, Sorcerer, you get to choose a second Ancestry of Dragons. So you could be Lightning Fire, you could be Lightning Ice, you could be Ice Poison, you could be Lightning Acid. There's a variety of stuff that you'll get double resistance to 2 separate element types, which is really, really good. As well as you can choose to pick you essentially, whenever you level up, you get access to pick spells that you want in your spell pool. You're more limited than you are a wizard, because sorcerers just innately know magic, whereas wizards learn magic. So when you pick spells, you can use any of the spells that you select whenever you want. You don't have to unlearn them. You don't have to like unselect them. They're always accessible. The downside is because you're more limited, you have to be very careful on what you pick. For example, like if I'm playing a fire dragonborn, I tend to pick more fire selected spells because I do more damage with those, whereas I'll do normal damage with any others. But I could always select a lightning spell, and the amount of variety is insane. Like every single magic character I pick gets Misty Step. I don't care. Misty Step is literally just a bonus action spell slot teleportation. You pick a spot you can see, use your bonus action, use a spell slot of level 2 or higher, and you teleport to that area, and now boom, I'm on high ground. I have advantage on my attacks.
Could I use the lightning breath to infuse a weapon with lightning?
Ooh, oh man. I think theoretically you could. I haven't tried that specifically, but I think it would work the same way fire breath would. If I blow fire breath on an enemy or a surface, it will light that on fire. For example, oil or like wine and beer and stuff. So if you blew lightning on a surface or a person and charged them with lightning, you could then dip your weapon to then make your weapon deal extra damage of that type.
And now we are going to go on a break so he could test us out. I need to know this now. Please go.
I'll do this at a later time. Because I don't have a sorcerer right now. My sorcerer is at the end of the game.
He has refused to go do it now. And I'm just ripping up his notes now.
You're a terrible person. But no, so theoretically you could. You could infuse something to then dip your weapon to make your weapon do extra damage. There is specific spells that you can get that allow you to infuse your weapon with elements, but that's not specifically you breathing your breath onto the weapon, if that's what you're asking.
If I'm asking, kind of like an Elden Ring type of situation.
Okay.
Where you get to infuse the weapon with, like, lightning.
Yeah.
I love that so much, and I will probably become a Dragonborn, like, paladin type of thing.
Oh yeah. You get Thunderous Smite.
What's that?
Thunderous Smite, it works the same as Smite, where you empower your weapon with energy, essentially, to do damage.
There are gods in this game?
Yeah.
Thor's in here?
No. You could play as Thor.
Stop saying games from other...
What do you mean? What are you saying? What are you talking about? You could empower your weapons with various elements and types of damage. For example, Thunderous Smite does thunder damage when you deal damage.
Okay, I think we figured out what I'm doing.
So you could become a Dragonborn Paladin who multi-classes into Sorcerer to pick up extra lightning spells to then take a hammer as your main weapon and infuse it with lightning and then also shoot lightning out of said hammer.
Okay, I think
that
we
is something you
figured
could
out
do.
what I am starting as.
Yeah. It's fantastic. If you can think of an idea, if you play hard enough and you look into the way that spells interact with each other, you can probably make that idea in the game a reality.
Okay, so now which origin character will become my favorite?
Which one will become your favorite?
Based on your interactions with them. Like, help me build my team, man.
Okay. So, for you specifically...
Because I don't download the mods. Like, that's cheating.
The mods are fantastic. The mods help
we
you make...
can get that down the line, man.
We can? Then you should have brought it up.
We're talking about the original game. The perfect game.
I will say, I've beaten the original game twice now. As both a regular custom character and the Dark Urge. So I know more about the game than anyone that's played through it one time.
Okay, but help me build my team.
Your team, since you're specific, because you seem like you're going to actually want to go a Dragonborn Paladin, which is going to have a lot of defense, a lot of frontline, like heavy in-your-face damage, you're probably going to want characters like Gale for support. Or not, yeah. Probably Gale for his ability to learn spells and be a class that can support you to allow you to do more damage and get to places.
Okay, Gale the
teenager,
wizard, right?
Gale the wizard.
Yeah, it's a teenager, right? Because you're not describing these characters at all.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. You have Gale the, I'd say middle age, like he's probably early 30s looking. Wizard who slept with a god.
Okay.
Who literally tells you within the first, like, 30 minutes of meeting him, like, yeah, I slept with a god. Literally. And now I'm an atomic time bomb. He's literally a nuclear bomb. That he also tells you within the first act. Like, you meet him, and he's one of the most trusting characters in the game. You could lie to his face, and he'd be like, yeah, absolutely, 100%. But he literally tells you, he's like, yeah, I slept with a god, and because I did so and I love her so much, I became a nuclear warhead. And if I die, the entire world as we know it will explode. But he's a really good wizard who studies a lot and can help you, like, with support spells or damage spells, like Fireball.
What about the red tiefling girl?
Oh, Karlach.
From all the characters, she stood out to me the most.
So,
would she be good on this team?
I think she'd be great. She's really high damage dealer, really high in mobility, and out of all of the 6 origin characters that you, like, get on your team right off the bat, she's the only one that wasn't in early access. Like, you could talk to her, but she would never join your team. She just kind of left in early access. But now that you can get her, absolutely, without a doubt, my favorite character. My original favorite character was Lae'zel, no matter what. Now it's Karlach. She is the most badass. She's essentially like the ADHD, like, muscle head of the group. Where if she can do something, she wants to do it. She'll move. Like, she's the only character out of all of them that just moves around randomly, like, a lot. And just does stuff. Like, she'll just dance randomly as you're chilling out. She has, like, really good conversations with you. Like, she has a whole entire, like, date scene that you get that's adorable beyond compare. But as for, like, actual battle, like, abilities, she as herself is a barbarian. Through and through, she rages, she gets really angry, she throws stuff, she throws people, she picks people up and breaks their backs over her knee. And she will get your team moving. If you need someone that does a lot of damage and can just get around the map to do that damage, or to, like, for example, she can get to an enemy before you can. She can pick that enemy up and throw that enemy to you so that you can beat the crap out of that enemy. It's a tag team match with her. I would say she's very much needed in your group.
And, okay, so what's my final character then?
Your final character, since you already have a support character, a damage dealer / utility member, you're probably just going to want a healer, and I'd probably just say Shadowheart. Shadowheart is she's essentially a very religious half-elf around the Shar warship, which is like a really dark patron that's like all about mystery. She's all about mystery and like kind of concealing herself and providing you with the ability to like heal you as well as like kind of disguise you in a way. Make you a little harder to see, make your team harder to hit, harder to like notice and stuff so that you can pass your skill checks. And she's the only origin character that has the easiest access to guidance, which is just a 1d4 on any ability roll. So anytime you're talking to an NPC, you can just be like, yeah, Shadowheart, hit me up with that guidance. I need to pass this real quick.
Perfect. Now I'm just going to go through the game and change the classes.
Oh, 100%.
Because screw you and your choices.
I want you to know you can. You can change the classes. You can respec any of your characters that join your team. So
but
I
specifically change those ones.
Oh, that's fine. I keep Gale as a wizard all the time because it suits him so much. I'll change Karlach to a fighter, sometimes a thief. Tried doing a druid once. That was kind of weird. It didn't really fit her character because she's just really like ADHD. And her as a bear is interesting. Shadowheart, I'll tend to change to a paladin or just any other
I'm the
cleric.
paladin. How dare you?
How dare you? Shadowheart's a better paladin than you'll
How
ever be.
dare you?
Lae'zel, I keep as a fighter, but I tried doing like a warlock fighter, and that was interesting for Lae'zel. Astarion, 100% of the time, I change him to a monk. A monk fits him so much better than any other class ever will. And then Will, I just keep Will as a warlock. He makes sense to be a warlock. It fits him. If I were to change Will into anything else, I'd probably change him into like a sorcerer because that would kind of make a little more sense. But
okay,
yeah, you're really upset. You ripped those notes now, so you have to read 2 pieces of paper.
No, I'm reading your notes. This question doesn't make sense. You downloaded to make to the game ? Like that doesn't make sense.
Oh my gosh, I hate you so much. I'm just gonna stop recording this episode, and we're just not gonna do it, and then I'll just never be happy, and we'll do all your shit episodes.
Legendary weapons. What goes perfect with the team that we've made for me now?
So I've gotten, as far as I'm aware, I've grabbed every single legendary weapon that I can potentially find in the game. I think there's a couple that may be locked behind choices that I just haven't found yet, but I've been watching.
I can see that. Like, you can only get this as a rogue type of thing.
And given there's like infinite choices, there's so many options in the game for side content that, like, if you choose something, it doesn't even lock you out.
The Wikipedia page must be super long.
Oh god, I've played the game for 500 or 400 extra hours, and I'm still watching videos, and there's like people that'll be like, oh yeah, 20 best items, and there's one item they list that I'm like, I've never seen that, and it's like some random side character that I've never talked to because I didn't know they fucking existed, because you don't talk to them. But for you, Lathander's Light, probably going to be the biggest one for your paladin. It's one of the easiest. So it's like a spiked mace. What would that be? A flail?
Yeah.
Right? But a flail's on a chain, isn't it?
No, I'm pretty sure it's like a stick,
a
chain,
stick with a ball.
and a ball.
So
that's a flail.
Oh, well, I'm thinking of, so it's a stick with a ball with spikes. That's all it is.
I think that's just a mace.
Just a mace, yeah. So a spiked
mace.
Yeah. It has an aura of light around it. It does extra radiant damage, which is what paladins are all about, is their divine smite, just radiant damage after radiant damage. You can still do lightning damage with it, yes. But it has bonus radiant damage. It gives you some extra like stats. It gives you a whole new passive that's like focused around like healing yourself whenever you go down. So like once per, I think it's a long rest, when you get hit down to 0 health points, you'll heal, and then everyone else that's on your team around you will also heal. So it's like a really, really nice, like, get back up on your feet. But the way to get it is, it's one of the first legendary items that you can actually get, and it's a puzzle-based legendary item. So you actually go through a temple as part of Lae'zel's questline for her Githyanki, like, creche that you have to find. And if you find a set of weapons, you can then unlock a crest by going to a specific portion. I'm going to give kind of the steps away, but I'm not going to give exactly where you go inside this temple away because it's pretty fun. But you find some weapons throughout the area. You take them to a spot to unlock a like gate that gives you a crest. You then have to explore further down into this temple and get to a hidden room, which is insane, in order to like use the crest to get the weapon, which seems very straightforward. The only downside is if you don't get the crest, you can still take the weapon. You have full rights to take the weapon. But if you take the weapon, you then have, I think it's like 16 turns, which is not a lot, to get out of the temple and away from the temple with all of your teammates, or you all die because a giant futuristic laser weapon destroys the temple.
Then make sure to kill Gale so the universe explodes.
Oh yeah, anytime you kill Gale and do not bring him back to life within a set period of time, your game ends. And you have to load from your last save point. Just so you know. Anytime Gale dies and you do not bring him back to life within a set period of time, your game just ends and you have to restart from your last save point.
Okay. Any lightning-based legendary?
Not legendary specifically, but there is an entire set of armor that you get in the first act that is based on accruing lightning charges. And as you accrue charges, your weapon attacks will deal extra lightning damage based on the charges that you have. And when you reach a certain threshold, I think it's like 5 lightning charges, you then deal an extra amount of lightning damage. So it's all just based on getting lightning charges by dashing, by doing damage, by standing on water. And then you do more lightning damage.
Okay, so we have my character built with the armor, legendary, the team.
Yeah.
In the class.
But now what you have to choose is you have to choose to play as a Dirge, a Dark Urge origin character, specifically because you said you want to play an evil, where you gain for yourself. The Dark Urge is the character to play as. And given, for anyone out there that's interested in like playing this game, you're not sure, 100% your first playthrough, go as an origin character, or not, don't go as an origin character, create a custom character, play through the game just as you would. Make the choices you would, just play it, just enjoy the game. Get to the end, beat it. Then go back through and play as the Dark Urge, because the Dark Urge is going to give you the flip side to the background of like your story, and you're going to understand why the devs had to make this an option to play as. And you are playing as the evil character. Your character gets benefits from another source every time you do something bad. For example, you're going to get cutscenes, potentially, depending on how you play, where you will be killing characters that you don't want to. And you're going to get rewarded with like legendary tier items over time that give you more ability to kill.
Okay. I think I'm going to cut you there. Because it sounds like stuff I want to experience.
That's why I was trying to word my way around it, because like it's that good of a character to play. Like, it was genuinely the best second playthrough of a game I've ever had.
So you said you downloaded mods. So you
Yeah,
don't think this game's that good. So
wow, putting words on. No, this game's perfect. This game literally could not have been better outside of like there has been a couple minor bugs.
Obviously, I'm joking.
Obviously, I know, but there's been a couple bugs here or there. But for the overall, like, the devs have fixed it within weeks. I've played this game from beginning to end as in-depth as possible twice now. Once is a good playthrough, once is evil. I've now proceeded to only play through Act 1 and 2 over and over and over and over and over again because I've downloaded so many mods and I'm like, ooh, I want to start a game with this. So I'll start a new game and create a character and play for a little bit. And I'm like, oh, but this mod came out. I'll start a new game and play with this mod. Some of the mods that I recommend for anyone that is interested is obviously play through the game twice at least, as I've said, as just playing through the game. Because it's a great experience. The devs did beautifully on it. But the mods, once you get to a certain point where you've played the game so many times and played through the content so many times, it can become repetitive, is I've downloaded Party Limit Be Gone. So now I can have everyone in my party, which makes the game really, really easy because everyone joins the fight. So you have upwards of 16 people fighting a small group of like 5 enemies randomly. And it becomes kind of too easy at a point, so there's ways to like kind of battle around it. But I did find a mod where someone is working on, and I think they have it full released, and if so, it might be a little buggy, but you could get everyone in your party, so when you do like conversations and stuff, the party people that would chip in do chip in now, and you don't have to go back and grab them and bring them into the party and get rid of someone else. But instead of everyone joining the party, you actually get to select who you want to join, like the fights. So instead of having 16 people going into the fight, you can say, I have 16 people on my team, but I only want these 5 to go into the fight. And then the rest during the fight will just kind of like disappear, and then they'll come back after, which I think is kind of a nice change. So it makes it a little harder where you can kind of control the like difficulty of it. As well as I've also got like a couple just like equipment mods and armor mods to like add new clothing options. So that doesn't really like change the gameplay. It doesn't make my character overpowered, but it just makes them look a little cooler, which is kind of nice. You can get some like cool clothing mods. I have another mod that's great where I can, instead of going to level 12 and stopping, you can go to level 20 technically. And the way that it works is you can take any class you want up to level 11. But as soon as you level them to 12, you can't level anymore. So you then take the other 9 points that you have, 8 of them you just put into like any other class. And then you go back and you can take your class to level 12. So once you reach level 19, you can then at level 20 take your class to level 12 and max it out. Or you can spread those 20 levels among anything you want. So you kind of get to play with more of the classes and play with more of the endgame content. For example, I really love like Sorcerer and Warlock. And Sorcerer gets really, really good at level 12. But that means if you go to Sorcerer to level 12, you couldn't normally multi-class into like Warlock. So instead you'd go like Sorcerer 8 levels in, and then you'd go Warlock 4 levels in, and then you get the extra feats and stuff, and you can kind of mess around with that. So now it gives you the little more ability to be like, well, I want 3 classes of Fighter so I can get the Action Surge. I want 3 classes of Rogue so I can get the bonus action. I want like 4 classes of Cleric because I want a really good healing spell. Well, as you kind of mess around with it, which has been really fun.
Okay. I hate to do this again, but bathroom break.
But yeah, like once you play the game a few times, I recommend, if you can, download some mods. It just gives it a fresh feeling because you have like people are developing mods to get new characters, new classes, and overall make the game feel a little new.
Okay. So when is DLC coming to the game? When is the Critical Role Pack coming?
So first of all, the devs have already announced we're not getting that sort of DLC. There's going to be no purchasable stuff. Like, there's nothing that you're going to buy outside of the base game.
Like,
which
you
is
told
nice.
me a lot of
I've
time now.
told a lot of people now.
Like, it's admirable they're doing this, but 100%, I would love to see like Critical Role skins.
Oh yeah,
Which
I know
I'm just
people
saying
would
Critical
love it.
Role because
It's
I think they're
popular.
like the highest D&D.
Like the most famous, the most
Yeah.
well known. Like if you know about anyone, it's probably
The
them.
movie D&D, like
Yeah.
it would be cool to see those characters in this game.
I get it, I understand it, but there is right now they've said they have zero plans on adding any sort of DLC.
Which
the game
is admirable
yeah.
because everybody does that nowadays.
Oh yeah, everyone does it to make more money, and then when you get the DLC like Pokemon, it's not complete, or it just feels
Or
shitty,
it was
or there's
part
no
of the
function.
game, but they cut it off
Yeah.
to be DLC.
And the reason they've said that there's not going to be a DLC, the only thing they're doing is they're going to add probably some content, because there is some content that was supposed to be in the original release, but because of like the way that the game kind of was working and the choices, like they didn't add it because it wouldn't make sense. But the main reason they're not adding DLC is because in order to add DLC, they have to have the game and their DLC factor in every single choice you've ever made in the game up to that point that the DLC would start. Which means, for example, even if you did something as small as killing a side character in the first 5 minutes of the game, the DLC has to register that and bring that into the code so that it can give you an option because of that. And with the amount of choices, there's millions upon millions upon millions of different ways, like different little tiny things you can do that just ever so slightly change the ending that makes it insane.
So, DLC probably won't happen.
DLC will not happen. The best
But
we're gonna get
character skins might one day
character
happen.
skins will also not. They're not planning on adding anything to the game that people have to pay for. So I guess in a way, yes, they could add something to the game, but they're not going to monetize it, which means something like a Critical Role DLC like character set isn't going to be added because one, if you added it like their clothing options, that's one thing, but to add the actual characters themselves, they have to incorporate entire lines and codes.
I was just
and
thinking
scenes.
just the skin.
Just to make your character look that?
Yeah.
I mean, you can kind of do that in a way through mods. The best you're going to get is a mod to make your character look different. But to the in-depth of what you would expect for a character skin overlay, that would take too much time for them to code that in and have it work with all the different clothing options and all the different voice lines and everything.
Like, I know you hate this type of... What?
I despise
Crossplay? Is that what it's called?
DLC. What?
What is it called when something from one series comes into another series?
Crossovers.
Crossovers? I know you
I
hate
don't like
crossovers in games, but I feel like it's justified if it's around the same thing. Like
We did
if
actually get a crossover, but I'll let you go first.
for example, I know it has nothing to do with D&D, but if a Lord of the Rings like character skin pack came, that's like, you know what? I get it. It would be fun to play a sorcerer as like Gandalf the White.
So, given, I know you may not like this, there is mods people have made to make characters look like different characters or sound like different characters. So that's kind of the closest you're going to get because Larian doesn't have any plans to do that. But there is technically a crossover. So, from the D&D movie that we watched,
Yes.
which we made an episode about, and if you guys haven't listened to it, you should go back and listen to it because it was pretty entertaining and we had a lot of good feedback. The druid of the group turned into an owlbear. You can't do that in the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition rules. And a lot of rule lawyers for D&D were like, you can't do that. That's not realistic. And like we're upset about it, even though everyone was like, that's entertaining, that's cool. Baldur's Gate 3 took that as inspiration and allow any druid that reaches a certain level to transform into an owlbear for fun. You also get to turn into a Dilophosaurus, which I think is pretty cool. And
you can
some
smell
other-
fresh cut grass in the game too. Like, oh my god.
Actually, there is a scene in Act 1 where your character mentions the smell of what appears to be a lush mireland of fresh grown grass.
But it's not cut.
But
Doesn't
if
count.
they phrase it in a different way. But if you pass a skill check, it turns into a murky, dead smelling swamp. It's really cool. So I guess there's the closest you're going to get to fresh cut grass, you know? But yeah, no DLC. They did, however, they have it on their plan that they're working on crossplay. So, or not crossplay.
No, we called it crossovers.
So crossplay. So right now, PC users and PlayStation users can play the game, but you can't play the game with each other. So, for example, if Double T were to buy a PS5 and I have a PC, we can't play the game together. We can still play the game side by side, but like he's not in my game, I'm not in his.
Way to tell everybody I'm poor.
You have the brand new Xbox, which the game will be coming out to the brand new Xbox. I'm hoping before November, but they haven't really given us a timeline on when they're going to get it ported over, so fingers crossed. They said it's before the end of the year, so it'll at least become before New Year's, which will be nice. But even if it did come out and he got it, we still can't play. So after hearing from the community enough, Larian announced, they're like, hey, we have it on the roadmap right now. We don't know when we're going to get it done, but we are going to try to work a way to where PC players and PS5 players and Xbox players can all play the game together. Which I think is fantastic, because that's a huge undergoing. Because they're going to have the issue of the way that PC works with this game is going to be very different from the way that Xbox and PlayStation interacts with the game, especially with the fact that PC users can download mods and stuff. So now modders are going to have to work around ways, and the Larian itself is going to have to work around ways to allow mods to affect the PC users, but not like screw with the other users. So it'll be a little bit more in depth, and I don't expect that we're going to get it till like probably late December. But it's still something to look forward to. They listen to their community. They're like, the community wants this. We're putting on the roadmap. We're getting this done as soon as possible.
There's nothing else I can really think of saying.
I will say this, unfortunately, I've always loved Kingdom Hearts. It's always been my favorite game ever. And upon playing Kingdom Hearts 3, it was refreshed on how much I love this series. Unfortunately, Baldur's Gate 3 has taken place number 1 in my favorite games. It has passed Kingdom Hearts, the first game to ever be, in my opinion, better than Kingdom Hearts. Good. And it hurts so bad to realize that. Because Kingdom Hearts, I will play through once, maybe twice, but I really won't go back to the game until the next Kingdom. Like, until the next Kingdom Hearts comes out, I'm not going to replay through any of the games, because I love them, but like, there's a lot of side stuff that I just don't care to do. Baldur's Gate 3, I have been playing almost nonstop every day, because it is that many choices, that much fun, and the mods make it better. So, for anyone out there even considering getting it, just get it. It's so good. It's worth your money. Even if you don't have friends to play with, you will not be disappointed. As soon as you get into the game, you're going to be like, just the character creator alone, you could spend 100 hours in just screwing around with different presets and stuff, and like, what if I make this? What if I make a tiefling? What if I make a gnome? What if I do a gnome rogue? You know, like, there's so many options.
Well, that might be it from this lightning dragonborn paladin named Popcorn.
Named Popcorn?
Yeah.
Popcorn the Paladin?